I-94 containing COVID. Oh, we had a funny comment here.
What?
Stay tuned for the Republican blame game. Let's see whose own fault it is today. Well, nice to talk to you too, Juan Carlos. Let's get Juan Carlos Benitez from the Republican Party of Guam. I know you also do some work in D.C. Chris and Sabrina here. Thanks for coming on, Juan Carlos.
Hi. You there?
Hello, Juan Carlos.
Good morning.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now. We have, yes. Okay, good.
Have a warm half a day and a wonderful morning. It's a beautiful morning this day.
It's a weird one. It's kind of like overcast. It's one of those, it looks like it's going to rain, but is it going to rain kind of days?
I say plants in Guam love rain, so any rain we can get here, it's always welcome.
Right. And, talking about rains, I wonder if you guys are thinking in the Republican Party that maybe Congressman San Nicolas's reign is over. Is there, you guys on the Republican side I know you're running Will Castro, are you guys seeing at all blood in the water right now, Juan Carlos?
Well, I have to say that all this turmoil and news coverage is definitely positive for our candidate. It shows disarray in the Democratic Party. But I have to tell you, one of my jobs is to try to convince people to run for public office. And what is becoming one of our biggest challenges is that as soon as you have anybody running for public offices, all these allegations start coming in about acts that they have done or they have not done, and how they're benefiting or taking advantage of the people in different locations. No one's immune. You see this time where people complain about the governor hiring her son-in-law as a general counsel. You end up having her son leading the PPP task force and how the funds are going to be used in that. And people can argue those things, but at the end of the day, these allegations permanently affect the way that your family will see you and interact with you. It permanently affects the way the local community is going to deal and do with you. The allegations that Congressman San Nicolas is facing are extremely serious on their own, and if they're true, we all agree his career in politics is probably done. But at this stage, I'm concerned about trying to address the specific allegations that are being addressed. I don't mind addressing the process and where we are in the process, and how those impact our other candidates.
Mm-hmm. So is former Congressman Robert Underwood's assessment of the situation being escalated? Would you agree with that?
If you want to call it escalated, maybe the difference is I'm an attorney, and he's not. So this would be sort of going from a grand jury investigation, and where the arguments brought up in front of the grand jury, whether you take all the allegations as being correct, would you have enough to proceed with the case? Would you win the case, right? If I have an individual arguing that you assaulted him, and there's enough evidence that's being presented to you, if taking them to be true, then you would have to proceed. And that's sort of the next step. It now goes into investigation. Now is where what I call the rubber meets the road, because people are going to be going through depositions, and it's a 5-year prison term if you lie to any investigator from the House on this issue.
So basically, in legalese, this is an indictment, and now it's in trial, or going to trial?
No, now it's in a investigation, and then after the investigation, they'll decide whether they're going to hold a trial or not.
I see.
What are the possible outcomes, Juan Carlos? I know that we had spoke about this. I don't know if it was earlier this year, but sure. After they complete the investigation, if there are findings,
what happens?
And they find that this allegation's true. This allegation's true. This one, they tried to cover it up. They lied about it. We found out it's true. do they basically present this to our delegate and say these are the findings of the investigation? Either you resign or we make them public. Is that kind of like the process? Because that's what I've heard in different instances involving different types of investigations.
Well, in the inside federal administrations, normally when you have Inspector General investigation and the investigation is not going in the right direction, normally they will do the gentlemanly and give you an opportunity to say, hey, the evidence started mounting in this case, and if we continue to follow the investigation, we feel we'll end up filing charges. Are you interested in staying in the position, or are you at this stage considering just removing yourself? That's on the executive. I've seen that repeatedly. In the House, I've seen something similar, but it depends on the charges, right? So, are you guys still online?
Yes.
Yeah, we're letting you talk.
Okay. So, financial mishandlings that are not don't reach a certain level normally will just bring either a warning,
right,
or a fine. Similar situation, I think Congresswoman Marin Bordaya was accused of staying at her sister's house, which was in her sister-in-law's house, which was at the outrigger. So that at the end was an admonistation. I don't even think they fined her. Mm-hmm. And there was no monetary fine in that issue. Now, the allegations that I've heard in the past, and I don't know if they were made into the federal system, but I heard locally, was the fact that one of the checks was not signed by his father.
Right.
Those are serious allegations, mm-hmm. Which are considered to be moral turpitude, and the allegations of having an affair with another member of the House of your staff, that is also grounds for separation. Those are the two big ones in D.C. When you look at these issues. Mm-hmm. So,
what about the possible lying to federal investigators?
It's a 5-year. That's a 5-year fine if you do it on their oath. But the question is, if you have two people with different recollections of an event, then the question is there was intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in your opinion, what does it mean when we get a release from the ethics committee that has sentences in it like that, where they say, did he lie to investigators? Did he obstruct the investigation? I mean, because that's new information in there.
No, for me, those are the charges that have been presented after the interviews that they've had. So I would assume that those were some of the charges that they saw. They normally just copy everything that is being considered and presented.
I think
if you look at the release was also made at the time where they cleared another case, right? They cleared the case of the congressman that was found sleeping with having a relationship with his staffer, but then it turns out that he had married her a year before and had not told anybody, right? So he had an exception for that, and then they're telling you this other case we're proceeding with.
Okay. But we're not talking like jail time or anything. We're just talking about fines.
Well, jail time, anyone that lies to a House officer should really take a deep breath before they do it, because you are facing the potential of having faced jail time. The example was during the Bush administration, the Undersecretary of Interior, Griles, I'm forgetting his first name, was asked if he had a relationship with a lobbyist. Nothing to do with the facts, just a question during the interview. He got upset. He didn't think it was a purview of the staffer to ask that. It didn't relate to the argument. And he said, I don't want to answer that. The staffer asked again, and he said, no, I don't have a relationship with that lobbyist. And then the lobbyist testified and said, "Oh yeah, we've had sexual relationships a couple times." He had to spend 5 years in prison.
Wow.
5 years in prison. So it doesn't happen every time, but it is something that is not a hollow threat.
Right.
So it's not treated as a hollow threat.
I wanted to ask you about. I know that I don't think it's a secret that the Republicans have had a good working relationship with Congressman San Nicolas. HR 1365, I think it was, the war claims bill. We saw Republican senators out there lobbying for this bill and working with the congressman. So have you had any conversations with the congressman?
I mean, I think he's even shouted you out, Juan Carlos, a few times.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh, in the past, yes, on the willingness to work bipartisanly. We've expressed that willingness to work bipartisanly to both the governor and the congressman. The congressman has taken us on it in the past, and we're still waiting. Hopefully, at some point, the governor might, because we really think that the idea here is for us all to work together. And we were extremely successful in the war claims. I'm excited to say that the checks have started to flow into Guam, and I think we expect over 1,000 checks to be received before the end of this month on the war claim. As we've been informed by the war claims committee, so that is exciting.
Is it awkward at all, Juan, with I mean, you've had this close relationship with Congressman San Nicolas, and now you're running someone against him. Is it awkward at all? I'm just wondering.
No. I think the party, we've been very clear. He's asked for the assistance of the party. The party was already working on this issue before, and we've had a good time, a good ability to work both sides of the aisle, and that's always a good strategy on bipartisan issues. But it doesn't change the fact that the party feels that if we are able to get a Republican candidate in Congress, that he would have a better relationship or a more direct relationship with the White House. The same way we had a Republican governor. It doesn't change that fact, and it's politics. And I don't like fighting people on gossips, on issues like that. I like fighting people on policy issues and stance that we have.
But we're not really talking about
lifer.
Are we talking about
I believe in that.
Gossip, though? I mean, we have an entire subcommittee that was formed. Because it seems like it's beyond the gossip.
What
right
now I don't know exactly what they have. What I have heard and I have seen are allegations at this point. And as I said before, I don't want to go into them because I want to give an opportunity to the individuals to have their day in what is the equivalent to court here.
Right. Let me ask you this one, not gossip, right? So
and let me tell you, if he's guilty of committing the things that are alleged, that's the end of his political career, right. and it's a pity. But I am upset and tired of this politics in Guam, where you run for public office and the first thing they do is a smear attack on everything that you relates to you or your family.
Let me ask you this.
That's not how I like to win elections.
Right. One this one is kind of beyond gossip, but one of the allegations was that he accepted a $10,000 over-the-limit donation from Korean businessman Andy Park. And then we saw recently that his campaign refunded $9,000 to Andy Park. And we now hear from a couple sources that the Ethics Committee has interviewed people on island about this donation. So when you have something like that, like you were accused of accepting a $10,000 donation, and then however many months later, you end up refunding $9,000 to one individual. How is that not an admission of guilt? I'm just curious.
No, I don't disagree, but again, when we're talking about the allegations, that happens in Congress all the time. If you look at all the elections that you're going to see, statewide or locally, you end up with donations that are being refunded or sent back because later on the people understand or realize that there was a mistake made at the time. That could be, I would expect that would be a fine that he's going to receive and a substantial one. That would be my expectation on it. But that doesn't raise to the level of the committee removing the individual. That's been my past experience.
What
in
about
Congress.
the alleged forgery of his father's signature that was alleged by the former chief of staff? Do you think that would be an offense that maybe the committee would say, hey, we got you on this? Do you want to resign?
Hey, forgery is a crime of moral turpitude, particularly a banking document. That's a serious allegation, and if it's proven to be true, that is a real that will receive we treat it seriously.
And it's crazy because we haven't seen the dad. I mean, the dad's all over social media. Any story about Mike San Nicolas, they're spamming the comments, but we've never seen the dad come out and say, that's not true, my son didn't forge my signature, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think the other reason I called was basically, and I appreciate that you had me right after the lieutenant governor. It is nice to hear a Democratic lieutenant governor touting the wonderful work that President Trump has been doing with Guam and our territories. It's a work that continues.
I got it on tape, Juan.
Yeah. It's interesting. He obviously said the congressional office is doing a really bad job, but the relationship with Trump is really good, which I appreciate. So I think we will take 100% of anything that happens in D.C. as being exclusively done by President Trump and without the assistance of anybody.
Right.
But it's wonderful to see him say that, and it is true. The Trump administration has been working on a bipartisan manner with the territories, not just with the governors and the congressional offices, but also with the local legislatures. It's nice when everybody's getting answers. We just had a Guam Chamber of Commerce meeting with Doug Holcher, who came up and gave us time from Air Force One to talk to the business in Guam and make sure that any concern that our private industry was facing, they were aware of. So that's great to see, and I appreciate that. It wasn't like that during the Obama administration, even though everybody thought it would have been. But I'm excited the times we have right now. Let's hope that President Trump wins 4 more years and we continue this. But I do want to talk about some of the wonderful things that are happening in D.C. that people might not be focusing on. If you guys had a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yesterday, little fanfare in Guam, Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi, Republican senator, introduced a bill in Congress that will amend the Internal Revenue Code to exclude income from controlled foreign corporations that reside in territories from U.S. taxation. And that is a very technical process, but it is an effort that is supported by the White House. And the number one economist for President Trump and person in charge of reviving our economy, Dr. Navarro. And the idea is to bring manufacturing of pharmaceuticals back into the United States. Puerto Rico used to have 73 pharmaceuticals and manufacturing all forms of drugs and IT equipment in Puerto Rico, and they closed shop when the Democratic movement passed to eliminate what was called Section 936 of the U.S. tax code, eliminating benefits. And this is an attempt that I think is going to be successful. And I was very grateful that Senator Wicker, with our support and the call from all our friends, was willing to include all the territories in the exception. Should this bill pass into law, it would open Guam to become actually an IT and pharmaceutical manufacturing location for the United States. It'd be great.
Juan, can I ask you about the HEROES Act? And I know that past the House, we're looking at more stimulus, but is this something you think is going to survive the Republican Senate? Are we going to get another stimulus, Juan Carlos? Can you pull those Republican strings?
I probably can, but President Trump can. And President Trump has stated all along that he's looking at doing one more stimulus package. He CARES Act Part 3, and it's Dr. Navarro mentioned the other day that he's looking at it to be somewhere north of $2 trillion at the end in infrastructure development and benefits. But I don't think it's going to be a copy of the HEROES Act. I think a lot of that's in the HEROES Act. We won't see in the final piece of legislation.
Right. So how much do you think they're going to whittle away? Because in the HEROES Act, it was like you get a card, and then when it runs out, they replenish it. Was that the...
I really don't have the HERO Act in front of me, and I would have to refresh with it. I know it has a lot of requirements that I did not agree with, and neither did the Republican administration or the president. I think it had a $2,000 incentive back to the people. I know that the president has talked about an additional incentive, but I don't know the amount. I think the other thing that did happen through Congress that did not get a lot of local fanfare, surprisingly, is the U.S. Senate just passed an NDAA for 2021, and it has over $700 billion in work. But for me, one of the things that is interesting that it brought up, it states that U.S. And the government of Singapore just signed an agreement on December of 2019 to establish a fighter jet training facility in Guam. So that's wonderful to hear, and it'll be interesting to welcome our fellow Pacific Islanders from Singapore, spending more of a permanent time here in Guam from now on.
That's good. All right.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about, we talked a lot about national politics, but I wanted to just talk about local politics. And it is an election year. We have a Democrat supermajority over at the Guam legislature. Are you guys recruiting for candidates? I know a lot of the times we haven't seen usually it's like a full 15 from the Republicans running. Where are you guys with recruiting people?
We're doing great. It's been I would say it's been a wonderful season, not only because we've been able to convince candidates like Tony Ada, Frank Blatz Jr., Joanne Brown, and others to really consider to come back into office, but we're bringing a new cadre of young individuals. We also have some former cabinet members like J.I. Cruz and others that have expressed their interest in running and participating on the Republican banner. I really think, as far as I've been in Guam, this is the best shot that we have to regain our majority in the local legislature, and we look forward to it. I think the fact that we have continued to refuse to bring back the 4% GRT to help our small business and community to manage with the ongoing economic crisis to their businesses. The fact that there's no type of there's been an increase in the ways in which you have to do business with all this coronavirus related expenditures, and then limitation of the number of people that can attend or participate of your business without any type of offset into those businesses so that they can continue to be successful is something that is concerning. I think recently we had Java Junction announce that they were no longer going to be in operation, and they joined a number of restaurants and concepts. I think Chuck E. Cheese has already stated that they're not going to be able to reopen. The number just keeps climbing, and I think a lot of people are saying if this local legislature is unwilling to give them the assistance they need to survive, the ones that will be barely making it are looking for a change.
We had the newly elected Democratic Party of Chairperson Sarah Thomas Nedadog on our show last week, and she was talking about, we should come together, want to meet with the Republican Party of Guam.
She wants to have tea with Jim Moylan.
Well, first, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I just wanted to know, have you guys engaged with Sarah?
I have personally not. I think she's a wonderful appointment. It is a breath of fresh air that to have somebody with her reputation leading the Democratic Party. I hope it shows a new sign and direction of where the parties might be able to work together with each other.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was nice of you.
I think it was a good appointment. I was surprised. Oh, yeah. I was happily surprised.
Juan, I was really surprised when we interviewed her that she didn't tippy-toe around the problems that we're seeing with the Democrat administration, Democrat supermajority. I mean, there was even one point where she said, yeah, people are calling for more credibility from the administration, and it's an issue. So I kind of like that, she's not so blind that she wouldn't admit something like that. So, and then I think I think people want to hear that our elected leaders should work together. I mean, it's no-brainer.
Yeah.
So, it kind of seems like you guys are doing because last election we elected a bunch of newbies, and, it is what it is, good or bad, however you guys think of it. But in throwing out names like, Frank Blas Jr., Tony Atta, I think you said La Morena, and
Joanne Brown.
Joanne Brown. Obviously, you guys are trying to go for the experience, right? These are like grown-up senatorial candidates.
You have Jack Cruz.
Right.
Okay.
So who are you guys planning to bring to the ballot, like new faces? Are you having an easy time recruiting total new candidates?
Absolutely. And I can tell you, as it stands right now, if the candidates that have already announced to the party come up, we'll end up having to have a primary election to whittle down to 15.
Wow.
We have substantially over 15 right now.
Oh, wow.
Where are they? Let's see them.
Well, you gotta give
Come on, Juan.
candidates the opportunities to announce their candidacy the way that they want to do it. You want a nice launching, and I am sure you will always be invited to all those launch ceremonies of the different candidates as they are made public in the coming days.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Yeah. Okay,
June 30th is the deadline. So.
Yeah. Hey, I do have one more thing because you mentioned deadline, and it reminded me. PPP, the PPP loan program that President Trump set up, it's set to sunset on June 30th. Okay. So come June 30th, no more small business will be able to apply for the loan. So I do encourage people to continue to have been debating about doing it or not. This is a great program. That loan becomes a grant if you spend it on salaries and rent and utilities. Just for 2 months, so it's a wonderful program. People should avail themselves.
Yeah. Okay, Juan. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan.
Bye.
Okay,
we'll touch base next week. Wash your hands.
We'll do. Bye.
Okay, bye. Interesting. It's so interesting to me that you have a Democrat like former Delegate Robert Underwood, who I don't even want to say he's just independently impartial. Right, and how he's been talking about the delegate San Nicolas, but then we get the Republicans that go on and they like really have a hard time saying anything bad about it. I just really feel bad for Will Castro, because if I'm Will Castro listening to Juan Carlos kind of like tiptoe around, Mike San Nicolas's many issues, I would probably feel a little hurt. Yeah. Oh, you know what I mean? Anyway,
it's politics.
It is.
Yeah.
Wow, what a.
I mean, you never know. Like, if he was Juan Carlos came out, what is he going to do? Like, oh yeah, he's a bad guy. And the Republicans look, God, you guys are so evil. You get no respect.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I think that's why they engage with him too, is because it annoys the hell out of the Democrats. It's good politics. 9:21. Let's keep.